What is up, everybody? Welcome here to the Half-Ass Podcast. It's your boy Corn, as usual. But here today, we have the author, the illustrator, the editor, the end-all and be-all of not only Walter Paisley Cafe, but Spadal. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Platt. Mark, say what's up to the people, man.
All right, what's up, people? Gonna have a good time.
And over here, we also have, ladies and gentlemen, the third piece of the party. We got Smith. Smith, say what's up to the people, man.
What's up, people out there? All you viewers, like none of them probably, but not currently. We don't have any live right now, do we? Can you see that? No.
Yeah. Can you guys see
but
it?
if you're watching this recorded, yeah, what's up?
All right. And so tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We're here to be talking about the only remake of Nightmare on Elm Street, also titled Nightmare on Elm Street. And this one came out in 2010, ladies and gentlemen. Now, one thing I do want to point out about this movie, and I think it really should be noted, is that it's something that came to my attention that Mark actually brought to my attention, when we were pre-recording. And this dude tells me that the director was going for a lot more of the Wes Craven-esque, feel throughout the movie, throughout the film. Mark, you want to tell the people about what Old Buyer wanted to do with this film?
Yeah, it was. The intentions were because at the time, somewhere between 2000 and 2010, there was a remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I believe that was 2003. There was one of Amityville Horror. There was one of Friday the 13th. And I think some of those people, they were all kind of involved or influencing each other or whatever. And Friday the 13th was definitely what you could call more of a reboot, now they seem to call everything a reboot, even though it might be a remake, whatever. Or sometimes they call a reboot to something that's clearly a sequel. I just think we're just overusing that word. You're just dragging it into the alley and beating the living hell out of it. So, so the idea was to do a Nightmare on Elm Street in the spirit of the way the Friday the 13th remake, or reboot rather, was done, because they didn't want to recreate the story of the first Friday the 13th, so they used elements from all of them. They were influenced by kills, but the director kind of decided at the last moment, it's sort of that he wanted to make it more of a remake and follow the story more of Wes Craven's original Nightmare on Elm Street, but make it darker. But then again, since we recall all of those movies are refresh in our mind, the wisecracking Freddy really wasn't in the first one. He sort of developed that well over time.
In like the third, yeah. Mm-hmm. I think Dream Warriors is when we started seeing more of the what we started, the Freddy that we know now, right? In terms of Robert Englund's Freddy. I gotta say, man, with this movie, there's some pros, obviously, and there's obviously some cons as well. But I know we're gonna spend a lot of time talking about the cons, so I at least want to praise the movie for what I love it for, right? Or at least like it for. And that's a story, man. I thought the story surprisingly was intriguing. I thought, it kept me in the loop. There wasn't a time where I was like, get on with the story. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because, again, I was nostalgic. When this movie first came out, I was in high school. So when I saw it, I kind of knew what they were going for in terms of, that's the one thing all the Freddy movies have pretty much done from what we learned, right? Is they adapt to the era that they come out in. They release these movies in. And this one, I thought, did it perfectly. It gave you the emo-esque Nancy, even though they changed her last name. They completely changed the character, which I thought kind of defeated the purpose. The way that the director Bauer, I keep forgetting his first name, is it Samuel? Samuel Bauer did, in terms of what the character names too. I mean, Nancy, obviously from Nancy, and then Quentin, they based him off of Glenn, right? I believe. So like, and Kristen, I mean the other, I guess, mainish, the second main protagonist of the series. So I mean, I thought there were some pretty cool, homage things. But I thought again, when we're going to start talking about cons, I'm going to talk about the too much of homages that they were trying to do in this movie. That really kind of took me out of it because it was a lot of it. But I enjoyed the cinematography as well. And the cinematography, I mean, we'll talk more about that when we talk about different scenes and shit. But if there's one thing I gotta praise, and I guess I gotta go off and just tell you guys my favorite scene of this movie already, just because I loved it. I texted you guys about this scene yesterday, but Jesus fucking Christ, that opening scene. You cannot tell me that opening scene was not. You can say whatever you want about the rest of the movie, but that opening scene was probably one of the best I've seen in horror movies. I mean, between that one and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 opening scene. Oh my fucking Jesus Christ! I think those two are the best. But I want you guys' opinion, at least on that opening scene. Starting off, Smith, I'll start off with you, man.
I mean, that opening scene was pretty crazy, right? Because he didn't even like just give his throat a slit. He fucking put the knife like hilt deep and then tore through, and it was like, damn, dude, what the fuck? Starting this off early. Outside of that, I think when the mom gets killed. And that's, they're also paying homage to, I think that was the first one where she gets pulled through the door, but it's clearly a blow up doll.
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yep. That was the very first one.
I thought that was pretty cool. She like stabbed through her head, pulled her back through the mirror. That was pretty dope. And kind of a weird way to end it, but that's another can of worms that we'll get into, I'm sure.
Facts. Oh my gosh.
The cinematography though, I don't know what you're talking about because that CGI was fucking whack. It was terrible.
No, the visual effects were horrible. The CGI, because if you go back in the older Nightmare on Elm Street movies, in terms of the actual like they use, like, I think when he came through that wall, remember when he came through the ceiling in the original movies? They were using what they use, what did they call it? Like latex. Like latex. They use real products. But yeah, the CGI in this movie was fucking horrible. Like when he came through the fucking wall, that was horrible. I give you that one, but the cinematography though, well, I've got to hold on. Let me give you guys a couple examples. I mean, the cinematography,
maybe I missed it. I didn't see any breathtaking shots in there. Like,
it wasn't like.
I'm gonna have to be with you, Smith. Yeah, I've got a lot to say about the cinematography.
All right, look at this. You guys didn't like that?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Come on.
Yeah.
They still did this one, although it was a copycat. They still did this one. I mean, they did it as best they could. I would not go with copying the original, but I mean, look, she looked like a badass at the end of this movie. I'm not gonna lie, she looked like a badass at the end of this movie. Not with that stupid face, but like when she like legit was like mad and actually fucking killed him. But we'll get to that too, because I've got some cons with the main character as well. But I mean. Look, say you guys wondered about the cinematography. I thought it was great. I thought the cinematography was great. But yeah, so CGI was fucking horrible.
Yeah, he didn't even consult Wes Craven in the making of this, which really pissed him off. Yeah. So like, I understand what he was going for, but he didn't even talk to the head honcho. Like, come on, man.
and that's the problem too. Is like if you're gonna make a completely different Freddy movie, a completely different Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Yeah, then you don't need to consult the guy that that his vision pretty much, the original vision.
And I would agree with you if this movie was good. It's not,
no. What I'm saying is, if what he did in this movie, he did completely different than that. Like he literally took from the visionary and tried to copy what he did. But if he didn't take from the visionary and just did a completely different Freddy, which was, you can see where he was trying to a little bit going for that, but then he kept trying to go back to Wes Craven. If he did it completely without Wes Craven's fingerprints on it, or at least his DNA in it, then he doesn't need to consult him. But the fact that he kept doing that, yes, I agree with you guys. He needed to be like, hey, Wes, can I do this? Is it okay? Just respectfully do this, do that, whatever. But the fact that he didn't consult with them, I completely agree with you guys. Mark, what did you think about the opening scene?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was yeah, that was particularly brutal, which, as Smith described, that was that was a pretty good kill. I would have to say, definitely, because I mean it did have a good start.
That's the thing. Like, and for a reboot, per se, I know we hate using that word. We don't use that term around here, but
Well,
reboot and
I mean,
remake,
like,
no, no,
I mean,
I'm just
if you
fucking
want
with
to
you.
do it, yeah, because I was just gonna say, like, if you do a reboot, like I said, Friday the 13th, 2000, whatever, that was a reboot, but this is really more
Yeah,
of a remake. Yeah,
remake, yeah. And
yeah.
the way they did this movie, I thought was it was the best. It's the best that they could with this being already written on paper. Whoever wrote this movie probably. I mean, I don't know, man, because whoever wrote it, I feel like when you read it, you're like, wow, that's actually pretty cool. But then when you actually watch the stuff that he does, like you guys say, like with Wes Craven's sort of like fingerprint on it a little bit, like it's kind of like you keep going back to this. It's like you give us like a good moment, and then it's like, now you remind us that this is also like one of the things that, and I kind of say that I put this in my notes, but one of the things I kind of saved for the end of this, but I'll just go ahead and say it, was that when I finished watching this movie yesterday, I loved it more as a horror movie than I did a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. So like to me, this would be a really good horror movie. But yeah, I agree that if you're trying to go into the Freddy route, just the fact that they just kept trying to connect you to the older Freddy was just, yeah, it's a bad Freddy movie. I have to admit, it really is. Horror movie wise, probably one of the better ones. But at least that came out in like this new era, like this new gen era, right, of remakes and all this other stuff. But I want to go over to characters, guys, because although people, we talk about how, like Mark, we talked about earlier how someone said before, like you couldn't get into the characters and stuff like that. You did the dry characters. I honestly was a little bit into these characters, like
Robert Englund said they were not empathetic.
Empathetic. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was kind of right. But I gotta start off with pointing this out because at the beginning of this movie, you don't think it's about Nancy. At the beginning of this movie, you think the main character is Chris. Now, I will say her role in this movie kind of stole the show for me because I honestly was kind of in tune with, like, I was kind of, not in tune, but I was more interested and kept wanting more from her character because, again, she witnesses that death of Dean at the beginning of this movie, right? And then now she has to carry on with that trauma and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
so
and she falls asleep at his funeral.
yes, but that's another element. That's another element of this movie that actually made me like this a lot. Is the fact that you can fall like people like he's catching them as soon as their consciousness goes out, so they don't have to be laying down and sleep. Like that classroom scene with Chris. And that visual I thought was awesome, where it like all went to ashes, and then Freddy's on the. I'm like, Jesus, and that was part of. I remember when that came out, when the trailer came out with this movie, and that was part of the trailers, and it looked really bad in the trailer. But then you watch the movie, I was like, they did that really well. I mean, they did as best as they could. I mean, you got to give them a little bit of credit.
Well, they managed. I mean, they justified it. I don't know if these are a real thing, but he said something to Nancy at one point. What the hell is his name? Quentin. Quentin said to Nancy, "Oh, you're having micro naps," and then the Asian guy Yuen said that he was having nightmares while he was awake. So yeah, at least they justified that much. And but I mean that's kind of, I mean, I will have to admit that is definitely the spirit of the movies that I always liked, was that this sort of playing with being awake and being asleep, yeah, those are emphasized. So yeah, I mean, that made for an interesting thing because, I mean, they did do it in a way that, you could feel that along with the characters. Where you don't know what's going on. It's the fuzzy lines are there and everything, and it could be confusing. And it was also like, I can't believe I'm saying this many good things about it, because I really want to rip into this goddamn movie. But anyways, but yeah, but yeah. So
I might have to back my grade down a little bit.
Well, yeah. All I can say is that, yeah. I mean, I can't shit completely on the movie. There are certainly movies that need complete shitting on, and this is not one of them.
So to continue on with Chris though, and I want to know you guys' opinion on this. But she was in the first quarter of, I mean not quarter, first I guess third of the movie, right? The first act of this movie was pretty much, hey, here's the backstory of Chris. Then it went into the second the second act of the movie, and it's like, okay, now we're gonna focus on Nancy, and then we're gonna get to the third act. We're gonna get into Freddy's backstory and all this other stuff, and who's Freddy? Did he really do it? Blah blah blah. Was he really a pedo? Whatever. So to me, you get three different perspectives pretty much in this movie. My question to you guys is, do you guys appreciate that? Did you guys notice it, first of all? And second of all, do you guys appreciate it? Mark, I'll start with you.
Well, yeah, kind of interesting, because, Chris was a good red herring, because honestly, the woman who plays Chris plays this character, Laurel, in the Arrowverse shows on the CW.
Black
and yeah, I do not like her. So all I could see was Laurel. I'm like, oh damn it, Laurel. And this is going to be about her, because I saw this 10 years ago, and a lot of my memory faded on this. I didn't remember exactly where it was going. So, but this led up to my favorite scene, because Laurel totally gets sliced up in bed, and killed. And I'm like, oh, thank good. Yes. Okay. I can stay a little while longer.
Hey, Mark, you do know they're actors, right?
Well, it's just kind of, I mean, especially when they're in a TV show, and she's not just on the one show. She's crossed over, the Arrowverse thing. They have also, it's kind of hard. She's the first time I remember, I didn't even remember her from the time. I didn't know who she was. Then when I started seeing her as Laurel, I didn't even think back to Nightmare. So yeah.
And to caveat on top of that, her death had to be homage, right? Her death was definitely homage, right? I haven't done any research on this movie. Well,
kind of. I mean, I think it was almost a little, because I mean, there was a scene in the original where the one boy gets accused of killing the girl, and he was watching her. So I mean, they definitely did that part. They changed it up a little bit, but. Yeah, as far as but the one thing I do have to say, I mean, going back to what you said about they're actors. I'm like, oh, okay, but she was kind of reminding me of the character Laurel in the Arrowverse. It's like, oh man, and that's the one thing I don't like about Laurel in the Arrowverse is, it's like, oh, I somehow I'm supposed to care about her, and I don't. It's the reason, it's like kind of the.
So you didn't care about Chris in this movie. But was it because of but to be truthful, it was because of the character, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, because I just thought, oh, they're trying to make her, and I'm like, okay, this is, whatever, but yeah. So when they changed that up, and then they refocused back to Nancy, I mean, it's not that that's never been done before, but. Sometimes it was effective, and this time I think it was a good call. I mean, it was kind of funny how you kind of, like I said, red herring, where they kind of throw you off, like, oh, okay. And this movie kind of does this a couple of times where you almost think it's going to be a reboot in the sense in a more strict sense of the word than a remake, which is really more what it's like. Um,
Yep.
To maybe jump ahead a little, but uh, like when they sort of made it a little ambiguous as to the child's memories and everything, and
Mm.
when they were children and all of that, and then it kind of went like it kind of made me think, oh well, he said that they burned an innocent man. I was like, oh man, what if they were going with that? But I kept thinking
that's where that plot twist comes, man. That's where that fucking twist comes.
So I mean that was the point, and yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I almost was like, oh yeah, well this would be an interesting thing, but I kept thinking too, like, well, why does he have the hand knives? Is that or whatever? I mean, I still don't think the glove of living Freddy Krueger really didn't come up as much, because he was supposed to be more of a molester than a killer. I mean, in the original, Freddy was more of a child killer, and he, in life actually killed children with the gloves, and so yeah, but they just kind of like yada 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 it almost, where they go to his basement room from the preschool, and they're just kind of on the table, that's all we really
it's
see.
Like, oops, he just left it there, and then how they easily found it too, which is crazy. But I mean, I guess they get the memories and whatever. You could say that he led them there. I mean, look, horror movie, like I guess what's the word, trope, from horror movie definition, I guess you could say Freddy led them there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you could get away with saying that he did that, right?
Yeah, that's the plot hole standard, I think.
Yeah, for a horror movie.
Well,
yeah.
The UN, I think that was his first name. UN said in his video that he thought Freddy was trying to lead him to the basement of the preschool, and I think that was sort of the little plot point that they took that idea from, to go there from him. So, I mean, at least the whole thing with UN kind of served a purpose more than just
that was the Asian dude, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I want to say something about that too before we get to Smith and your thoughts. The fact that they put those scenes in there where she's looking up the other children in those pictures, that was good storytelling. I thought that was something that needed to be like it. They could have gone away without it, and I felt like it would have made the movie even worse. The fact that they put that in there, it made it better. I thought it made the movie better. I just want to throw my 2 cents in there about that.
Wonder how they forgot. I was almost expecting like some sort. I don't know. It might have been bad if they did, but I wondered why they forgot. I mean, yeah, they were little kids, but I mean, I can remember as far back as, I mean, not very clearly, but to maybe when I was 3-4 years old. I mean, so yeah.
And true, I mean that was a little bit weird too, because they were it was a traumatic event too, and they say like you remember traumatic events when you're a kid or whatever, but I don't know. Maybe it's easier to make kids forget trauma. I have no idea, but
and then they brought up.
I was like, how did they forget? But
they brought up.
Then again, how did they forget
memories.
Freddy before? And other movies.
They did bring up repressed memories, which was kind of a thing, and maybe that's why they brought that into it. I don't know when this happened. Okay, because I don't know when this happened. I think it might have been in the 80s, where there were a lot of people that were like being hypnotized and coming up with these like repressed memories of being molested as children, and people were like going to fucking jail for this. And so I don't know, given further investigation, it was completely debunked. Like it wasn't really a thing. It was it wasn't very scientific, the method that they were using. They were sort of being influenced by the hypnotizer. Honestly, I mean, hypnosis, most of it, if not all of it, is bullshit. Anyway,
so it could have been a thing, maybe, possibly in this movie. I mean, even though obviously, if it's a real thing in life, doesn't mean it could be, a real thing in a horror movie. But we could, that's a good ploy in there. I like that. Smith.
Hypnosis aside, like when a lot of people, especially when they're kids and something fucked up happens, like they won't remember or like refuse to remember basically until they're older. Something sets them off without getting graphic or whatever. So yeah, I guess, but again, it just goes back to like the horror movie plot hole fill. Like, oh yeah, just fucking fill in the blank. That's how it works.
Yeah, I have to give that. I mean, it's plausible, because trauma.
At least it wasn't glaring like some of the other movies where it's like, what the fuck is even happening here?
Facts.
The micro dreams though, or micro naps, whatever they call them. That just reminds me of the one. Which one is the one with the motorcycle kill?
That was one of the later ones. That was like 5.
Was it?
Yeah, I want to say that was 5.
Is it?
Either 4 or 5.
Oh
no,
yeah, I think that was like the best kill in 5. I think 4 was the one with the Roach Motel, and I don't know. 4 turned out to be really good. 5 not as much, But
that's right. Yeah, the good thing about 5 was that kill though, that motorcycle.
Yeah,
kill.
I think the standout kill of 5 was the motorcycle kill.
But but in that whole movie, they talked about like that was like where they would just be in a dream all of a sudden. Like especially, what did he drive to the hospital or police station like 3 times before he finally died?
Yeah,
you remember? Yeah. So I wouldn't call it an entirely new aspect. It's nice that they came up with an explanation, which is a real thing if you look it up. But let's talk about like the lack of creativity in all these kills. Like I get paying homage, but they chose I think the most boring ones, and they didn't really do like anything special with them. It was like, okay, it looks a lot better in some cases worse, but like, what's the point? Why not do the Roach Motel thing if you're gonna do anything?
I agree about the kills. I think the kills are weak. I think that obviously I praise the first one obviously because the first one was the best kill aside from what did you guys think about Freddy's kill, his death? About them just taking the thing and just slicing him. Like she slices his arm off and then just stuck it through his chest.
They did that in a different one, didn't they?
Oh no! She didn't stick it to his chest. She slit his throat with it. Remember?
She cut his hand off. Yeah. But he didn't really die because you can hear the fucking fire department talking about how there's no bodies inside, which is like he's still out there. So I don't. If you can even call it a kill, like they got him.
Well, Haley, who played Freddy, was actually contracted for this film and 2 sequels, and I couldn't find out why, although I have some pretty good guesses why we didn't see those sequels. Because regardless of what you think, Corin, you got to admit people don't like this film.
It was poorly received. It made a lot of money, but it was poorly received. It's kind of like it was kind of like the Batman versus Superman kind of box office thing where it's like, yeah, it made a lot of money, but it was very poorly received, like very, very poorly received. Right. And if you guys really want to know the feelings about what Robert Englund thinks about this remake, look no further. That's good old Robert Englund. He's letting y'all know right now. He's letting y'all know exactly what that 2010 remake was, for sure. I want to. Before I continue, I do want to point out this comment really quick. I keep forgetting we're live sometimes. Kavaria says, really, guys, we got a trailer for DC Phantom and all the new release, but we decided to talk about Nightmare on Elm. Hey, look, man. Look, the DC Phantom can wait, fam. That shit's like a month or 2 away. We talking about Nightmare on Elm Street in that, fam. But thank you for sending in your chat, man. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about Freddy for a minute, man.
Oh wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I wanted to make a point before we went further, because it was about the box office, right? We
Mhm.
it made actually it made it was the most profitable of all the Nightmare movies, including Freddy versus Jason. And this is with like inflation and all this thing. So whatever. It wasn't just pure dollars and cents. It was adjusted for inflation. So
Pure
yeah.
dollars and
So
cents.
but now and I hear this all the time from like a lot of movie nerds or just people like, oh, why the hell are they making a remake, blah blah blah. And it's like, it's always about the dollars and cents. And this movie is a good example of why they do that, because people went and saw this movie and they hated it, but it made a shit ton of money. So it's not going to stop. That's just going to encourage it further. They're like, well, hell, we can just make a fucking remake and people will turn out, and it's like, yeah, a lot of people hated it, but they were laughing all the way to the bank. But at the same time, they didn't get to make the sequels, which, like I said, I couldn't find out why, but I'm guessing it's the backlash.
And I'm glad you pointed that out as well. Because I fuck with that. I really do. I fuck with that. Kavari says, it's cool, man. Love the conversation. Good vibes. Good vibes. Hell yeah, man. Of course, obviously. But I do. By the way, Smith, did we get your opinion on the three perspectives of the movie, the three acts?
Oh yeah, no, I sort of spaced that. I got
Oh, you
lost.
straight. You straight.
You guys are going back and forth, and I was like, "What are we talking about again?" Yeah, so
I thought I was a high one.
I mean, I'm drunk. I'm not high, but I don't know if that's so. As far as starting off with the blonde chick, what's her name again?
Chris.
Chris. Why is it just Chris? That's weird.
Because I think they're paying homage to Kristen, the other main chick from
like, they could have went with Christy. It doesn't matter. I like that they killed her. I like how we started with her. I didn't have a personal vendetta against her like Mark, but it like sort of woke me up. I was like, oh hell yeah, we get kill all main characters, bro. Kill everyone. I want to see everyone die. And the way they killed her though, that was pretty freaking lame, I guess. I mean, yeah, they're paying their respects and everything, but they sort of just jiggled her around in the sky and then they slashed her open. It's like, you couldn't have like done a bit more with that. Like, come on.
What about the death of Jesse? I mean, that guy. I mean, and he was also named after, guess what? Jesse from the second movie. I like that. I like that kind of homage. Yeah, the dude that died in the prison. Who I mean, did you guys like that death? Did you guys really fuck? I
liked how the convict was like screaming that he didn't do it right away. I'm like, yeah, good luck, dude. Like,
yeah. I mean, you almost felt for the guy. It was like, I mean, he was being an asshole, but I mean, with good reason. I mean, the kid was freaking out in the upper bunk, and the guy was trying to sleep. He's like, "Shut the fuck up," and yeah, and then the kid fucking dies right in front of him, and I mean, he's like, "I didn't do it." Like, oh my god, could you imagine being in that position?
Bro, every time I watch this movie, I always think about that. Like, I'm like, bro, imagine just being in that situation and like your fucking cellmate or somebody like just fucking like gets killed by Freddy, and you're like, what the fuck is this gonna look like?
Oh
like,
my god!
You're like, oh shit. that death was. I liked it though. I thought that was very. I mean, I wouldn't say super creative or anything like that. I mean, Deuce is in a jail cell and Freddy kills him, but I like the fact that they showed the aftermath, because in the older movies you put them in situations like that, and it kind of showed like maybe a couple seconds after it. This one shows like a full-blown like 10-15 seconds of like the reaction of someone being in a room with someone who was killed by Freddy. Like, I like that. I really enjoyed the perspective that they tried to throw at us in this movie. I really did. But but let's go on to Freddy. Because I'm gonna say probably, well, obviously my opinion on this movie is already controversial than the vast majority of people that even sat down and took out the 2 hours of their time to watch this movie. But the most controversial statement that I will make in during this review is, I like this Freddy Krueger. I actually liked this Krueger. I liked his look, but I didn't like the fact that he didn't have any facial expressions. That's the one thing that was missing because I like that we get a legit scary Freddy Krueger. I honestly I can't complain about the look because they try to make it a little a little bit like the old Freddy, but they still had their new little twist on it of like we're not gonna do every single part of his skin has like the holes and you know what I mean, like you can see like the stretch of the hole, like you just see the stretching of the skin. It looks like a really old man that got burnt. I fuck with it. It's still like a little bit legit scary, but the fact that he doesn't have to be funny, he does not have to be funny. But I do need to see his facial expressions because you might as well just put a fucking mask on him like he's Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers or somebody else. If you're gonna have someone running around as a legit fucking scary slasher, be able to show their facial expression when they talk. I don't need to see him just open up his mouth and just go like this the whole fucking time. Like I want to see because the words came out great. I thought some of his lines were stupid, were kind of cheesy or cringy or whatever, but some of them actually they gave him pretty good lines for the most part of this movie. And the way it comes out is great, but the way it plays when actually watching it, you're like, what the fuck? You're like, that's not supposed to fucking do anything. You know what I mean? What are you gonna say, Mark?
Oh yeah, it's just that might be the reason why Robert Englund and a few other critics criticized the makeup effects or what and things like that. Because of that. I mean, the one thing about it too was, the one thing I liked about the Freddy's makeup was like the really burnt side of his face, where all the that really gives me the willies, and so I really like that, and but yeah, that's a problem. But I also noticed too, because I always wanted to get a good look at what they were doing with that face, and often his face was obscured, whether it was almost always obscured by shadow. I mean, that could be effective. I mean, people might want to say, well, you didn't see the shark that much in Jaws, and think of that, how much, how good that movie was. But I think this is a little different, especially to your point about the facial expressions. I mean, I don't know about you, but I always look for it too, where, where that's important. I mean, like, why did Iron Man take his helmet off or flip it up or whatever all the time? So he could act, so he could have those facial expressions. And you see that a lot with people. I mean, the only character, I mean, there's a few, like Jason, like, he doesn't take off. We only see his face like usually once in a movie, but but they're going for a whole different effect there. So yeah, I think that might have something to do with why those criticisms is the whole face thing.
Facts. And on top of that, I have to touch on the backstory too. Now I know the backstory obviously is a very serious backstory. We're talking about, obviously, but I liked it. I like the fact that now you're making us hate this guy. And then what they did 20 minutes later, which a lot of people hate, but I actually liked, was they made you think that, oh, he was set up by the parents. Maybe this guy's actually good. But then they give you the twist back again that he's actually really bad. I liked that backstory for this guy. And like you said, the way they did this movie, it completely set up sequels for this movie. We're never going to get them, but it completely set up sequels for them. I want to see more of this Freddy. But yes, my biggest complaint about this Freddy is that, no disrespect to Jackie or Haley, but anybody could have done this. Only solely based off the fact that you put somebody in that makeup, in that art, you have them do a deep voice. Yeah, it sounded cool, but with all the technology we had, that we still had in 2010, you could have done anything. Now I can't complain too much on the fact that we didn't get a facial expression, only based off the fact of how bad the CGI was of this movie. They might have tried to go the CGI route with the facial expressions and would have went 10 times worse, and I probably would have hated this movie at that point. So, I got to pick my battles. You know what I mean? Smith, what'd you think about Freddy?
I'm not a big fan of the makeup, as you guys are. I liked, I can't remember which movie it was, but he looks like the classic Freddy, but his makeup is a bit more wet. Like his burns are more raw almost. Yeah, unlike the fifth movie where he looked super dry, I think. Outside of that, his voice kind of put me off. I know I like he did a good job with the voice acting or whatever, but it just wasn't the classic Freddy, so it sort of like fucked me a little bit while I was watching it. And have you guys ever seen like a Tool music video?
Yeah.
That's literally that's what he looked like. I couldn't stop thinking about that the whole time.
Look, I get, you know, you guys' gripes with Freddy and everything, but if you're going into a different route, I mean, what did you guys think about the serious part of it? Did you guys enjoy the fact that, okay, we at least got a more serious Freddy, not this joking around? Although again, some of the lines, they try to make it seem like he was being playful and weird, but just came off as cringy and unneeded to me. But in terms of the seriousness, I mean, did you guys like more of a serious character in Freddy? Smith, I'll start with you.
I definitely did. I think he could have had. They didn't have to leave out so much of the comedy. You know, he could have been super scary and just not. Because it's like when we talk about the other Freddy, like, he's not like doing a. Well, I'm not saying that he was incredibly scary in this one, but but just like the old ones, like they didn't have to do like a karate kung fu movie kill, and he still could have said some funny comebacks, you know. But it wouldn't have ruined it. And then not to mention the lines that he did say were like some of them were like word for word ripoffs from other scenes, which I understand. Which I mean, come on, man, like just something at least.
Even the last punchline of this movie, "Welcome to my world, bitch." It's like, "Now you're in my world, bitch," or something like that. I'm like,
oh no,
wasn't that used like literally 3 Freddy movies ago?
I thought that was Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah. Well, that one. Well, no, that it was using that one and one of the original Freddy movies. It was was it 4? I think it was, but one of those movies was like, "You're in my world now, bitch," and it was just like, that was.
Oh, that was awful. I'm talking about in this movie. Oh, jeez. Well,
but the look. Let's get into Nancy, because I want to get into Nancy. I really do want to get into Nancy. Let's go ahead and get this over with Nancy, man. So. I thought that she resembled everything that all teenagers look for, what we looked for in that time, right? In terms of like, this is like the post emo era, so it's not she's not super duper emo. It's not she's walking around black hair, just drowned, just you know what I mean? Like this is like, you know, she's definitely showing her human side in this film. The character is in this film, but it kind of resembled what people were looking for, like that more of like that rocker style, you know, kind of hippie chick. We got that in the lead character of Nancy. Now, my problem with this character is that it would like what's her name? Rooney Mara. She later on went on to do Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which was an amazing fucking movie, by the way. But her playing Nancy in this movie, she played the character well all the way up until she had to play scared. Once it came to the parts where she was getting scared and shit like that, like, I'm like, why is she not scared? Like, why are they just automatically like not scared of Freddy Krueger? Like, this should not be like at the end of this movie. This should not be like some action kind of movie. Like, this should be a horror movie. She should legit be scared. Now, she kind of showed that a little bit in the picture that I showed you guys earlier. This picture, like, she was a little bit scared, but you can tell she's more worried than she is crying, scared, screaming. None of that. We got none of that. I mean, she's looking straight at this dude with this and still not saying a damn word. And I'm just like, bro, like, what kind of character, what kind of lead character are we getting? I thought it was terrible to name her Nancy. I get the homage part, but again, my biggest problem with this movie is paying too much homage. Do not name your main character after the original main character and make her nothing like the original main character. Nothing like her. So I mean, I liked Nancy for what she was, but again, the naming her, which pretty much saying, "Hey, here's your you know, here's the old Nancy just remade," is just like, I can't get behind her. Now I will say that part where she got emotional with her mom, where her mom was keeping them secrets from them when they actually found the picture of them all, and then she started crying and she was like, "Tell me to." I thought that was great. I thought that moment between her and her mom, that her mom was like, "Okay, I have to tell them the truth. You know, I have to tell her and Quentin the truth." I thought that was awesome. I mean, that's all I really much have to say about Nancy. But Mark, I know I'm pretty sure you're probably eager to talk about Nancy. So let's get on with it. What do you got to say about Nancy? I'm kind of eager to hear this.
I think that in particular, is the character that the critics were harping on for not being empathetic, because I found her honestly bland. I mean, and I think you were kind of saying that in a way, where she wasn't scared, and and she wasn't reacting like a horror movie, more like an action movie. But I mean, in with Nancy, it comes with a lot of my big complaints about this film, is that it sets things up and it doesn't deliver. Like, I'm sorry, we want to make a darker Freddy. Well, they seem to hang most of the darkness that was okay, now we're going to portray him more as a child molester than a killer, and that was kind of it. It was kind of like, okay, this is creepy, but I felt wanting more, and not like in a good way, like, I can't wait. Like, I felt like there should have been more. There should have been more of a follow through. They just weren't hitting the mark. It's just on so many ways, and that could even go back to what I have to criticize about the cinematography and things like that. Like, yeah, okay, that hallway scene was a good shot, but at the same time too, I mean, we came fresh out of Freddy versus Jason. I mean, that was a beautifully shot film. I mean, yeah, there might have been a couple of parts where the 2003 CGI kind of showed through, but it was an amazing looking film. It looked much better than this Nightmare movie, which was like 7 years later.
Oh yeah, I mean, the cinematography was better in that movie by miles.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I mean, that's this thing. I mean, look, I mean, maybe like it's hard for anyone to like try to watch this movie in a vacuum. I mean, there's just going to be those comparisons, and then the director's going more for a remake, obviously, and there you go. It's like, I think Smith kind of mentioned that, where it was like, I wish that there was. I wanted them to be able to do a little bit more with the kills and just things like that. Like, yeah, start with the homage and then like smack us with something, but nope, didn't deliver. It just never delivers. And like I said with the, like I kept looking for, because almost all of the movies, whether they were weak or not, almost all of them had really good boiler room scenes, and that was always something that really impressed me. That and the boiler room, again, like there weren't any chains hanging from the wall and coming across the camera the way they often do, and then there was just other like things, like little touches about the boiler room scenes in prior ones. And I mean, obviously, like Jason versus Freddy was amazing.
Oh yes.
And yeah, this boiler room was just sort of meh. But that's what I keep coming to in this movie. It's like, yeah, I can't shit all over it, but I can't like, I can't really like it either. It's because everything's just so meh. And right back to Nancy. It's just like, man, I don't know. I mean, I thought, Quentin was actually a more interesting character.
Yeah, Quinn was my favorite character.
And it
wasn't much to him either. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, but
but unfortunately, again, like they didn't paint him as the man. He was one of the main characters, I guess, but they painted him, more of like this side character. I'm just surprised I'm glad he lived, because he was my favorite character. I was like, look, man. Normally, I don't normally root for horror, for characters to live in horror movies nowadays. But I'm like, Quentin, I'm rooting for him, man. I hope this dude makes it out alive. I'm like, fuck Nancy. I hope this dude lives.
Well,
Smith, what was your thought on Nancy?
Yeah, she was definitely bland. All the points you guys made still stand. I have no real arguments against those. But outside of that, man, what else is there to say? She's, I mean, yeah, This really is like the Switzerland of Freddy films, because I can't. She's like neutral. It's like she did it. She acted it. It wasn't piss poor performance. It wasn't amazing. It's not like nothing to say really. Not notable. I definitely did what you said about Quentin though, and a lot of people I found out just looking at some forums. A lot of people really like his character. So
yeah, dude, I really fucked with Quentin. I was such a fan of the actor. I actually watched other stuff he was in after this movie, and like underrated. Kyle Gallner is very underrated actor. But yeah, look, the way they tried to paint Nancy in this movie, something was missing, and like we all three have pretty much mentioned, like we don't know what it is. It could be. I mean, the blandness just exposed it pretty much. It pretty much like exposed her character, like the character of Nancy. Of just like something's missing there, so we can't really get behind this character. Quentin, however, we can. This guy's eager. This guy knows he's in a situation. This guy he's trying to find all the answers. You can tell that he's scared. You can tell that he's also angry. Like, that is a character you want to get behind and root for. And I'm just glad he lived. They didn't have to make him the main character. I'm just glad he fucking lived. So now I want to get to the parts of this movie where we always talk about, right? Which is our favorite parts of the movie, which you guys already know my favorite scene in the movie. So I'm going to toss that over to you guys here in a second. But we're going to get to that. I'm also going to get to what our worst parts of the movie, and then we're going to get to our grades. So, Mark, I will start out with you. What was your favorite part of this movie?
That would have to be Chris's kill. Yeah, because I was really worried about where this movie was going. Chris got killed. I do have to say, because it was from the rear, so the blades came up, through the front of her. But yeah, I mean, she got killed because by then, although I had seen the movie before, I forgot enough to be kind of convinced that Chris was going to be the main character, and it wasn't a bad switcheroo. Sometimes they can't always pull that off. I mean,
yep. I like the way they did.
Yeah, and so they kept me a little bit going and interested, but I guess for those reasons, but yeah, other than that, I can't think of really too much that stands out for me because once again, meh.
Smith, what about you?
Well, I got a lot of favorite parts, but I think a notable mention here is how they handled the internet on camera, especially in the 2010s, because we've seen other films that have come after this that just did I don't even know, it was written by someone who's never used it. They're like the websites are weird looking. They'll have the text bubbles show up on the side of the screen as they're texting someone, so you can see the conversation. Just really piss poor shit. And what was the Asian character's name?
Ewan.
Mark, you know it.
Ewan?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that was a pretty good touch, like you mentioned earlier. It was sort of tied the story together. And then, although the last video she checks where he slams his head into the camera, it's he still had to post that after. It's I don't. It's if I did that right
it was
now,
live though, wasn't it? Wasn't it like he did it live and somebody captured it or something like that, right?
I don't know. And then another thing with the internet, where the dude's going on Gigablast, I think is their search engine, and he types it in, hits enter, and then it clearly shows the cursor clicking enter as well. It's you gotta double up, dude. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in this film. Obviously not enough to make it a good film, but that's what I'll say about it.
Well, It's funny you should bring up the technology because, that's what I was thinking. It was I mean, this movie was only 10 years ago, and to see the technology, like the cell phones and the internet and things like that, and it's wow, because I mean this was not too far before iPhones. I mean, that was pretty much the first smartphone that hit the market or whatever, as far as I know. And and I think that was just such a game changer that this technology 10 years looked so old. Like, God, I'm like, that was 10 years ago. Like, we've come this far in 10 years. I don't know. Maybe it's an old man thing, but it was, yeah, it was really like, it just made me think about that. Just seeing that, like, wow, we've come so far.
Facts. And I want to add this too, man, because I feel like this movie, like we said before, this movie's missing quite a bit of pieces when it comes to quality content. But I feel like it kind of didn't capture its own identity by the end of this movie. Like we still don't know that, like, the film doesn't even know its identity by the end of this fucking movie. I feel like, so that. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about the ending. And actually, you know what? I'll start off with that. The part that my least favorite part of this movie is the ending. I feel like we kind of needed a little bit more. Like, I get that, yes, it's set up certain things, whatever, but we needed more. Like, I don't know. I don't think we needed more clarity of who Freddy was, but I feel like we needed more clarity between the parents and the kids or whatever. We just needed some kind of like solution, or at least some kind of closure. I think closure is the word. Is this movie just needed a little bit more closure? That's my the one thing I would fix is just the ending of this movie. Not necessarily the way that Freddy died or anything like that, because again, it's kind of tricky of how to kill a character that haunts you in your dreams. I mean, we've had 8 iterations, 8 different solutions of how to kill somebody like that, and almost all of them are shit. So I mean, nobody knows how to kill a guy that haunts you in your dreams or kills you in your dreams. But Mark, I'll start with you. What's one thing you would? I know there's many things, but what's the one thing that you really disliked, that really stood out to you, that you disliked, and that you would actually fix about this movie?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's many things, but I mean, most of it just comes down to it being disappointing in the fact that it had a $35 million budget. Yeah, that isn't stellar. I mean, it was still within the era where we've had $200 million movies and things like that. But still, that could have been some good money to play with. And and then you have the notoriety of A Nightmare on Elm Street. So yeah, it's just over and over again, nothing delivers, and that's kind of where it violates one of my rules. Don't bore me. That's kind of what it did, because I just really I didn't get much of a feeling out of it. It's like, look, I've seen remakes and reboots that can get me jazzed and be like, wow, like the Dawn of the Dead reboot. I mean, look, I can't, Dawn of the Dead, the original, is just one of my all-time favorite movies. That remake was really good. I'm like, yeah, that's what you need to do. If you're gonna redo a movie, fucking give me something, man. Punch me in the goddamn face. And this movie barely beeped my nose.
You want to see somebody completely showing this movie? Look no further. Smith, what about you, man? What was the part that you would fix in this movie that you didn't like?
Well, I think it's interesting to mention that you mentioned the writer earlier. This is relevant, I swear. His name is where did it go? Wesley Strick is the story writer for the screenplay, which is the same dude that did what's the one, Cape Fear, where the chick's on the bottom of the car. So the same dude who did that, and I just think at the ending where he died, but he really didn't die, and then he comes back for like one last little scare, kills the mom. It's like, like, why? I don't know. It's not rewarding. It's like, just finish it, give us an ending. If he's gonna come back,
well, that's more of a cliffhanger though. When he came out to kill them all, and that's definitely a cliffhanger.
It didn't feel
She's
that
not
way.
really dead.
because I was already like wrapping it up in my head, and then like here we go. It's like he was doing a Cape Fear thing right there at the end. Same guy too.
Now, I mean, I don't know the way it was written. It could have been written to be a part of it, but the way the movie ended, I mean, Mark, wouldn't you agree that that's a cliffhanger? She's not the mom. If they made a sequel, the mom wouldn't really be dead.
I don't know. It's but probably it's all I know is that it's like if all the movies, including this one, Freddy's never going to go away. Like he just can't be killed. It's like any time the end of a movie is just a break. Like oh yeah.
Facts.
But and then we talk about movie endings.
I mean, horror movie 101 is the movie. All right, so they solve the problem, right? The teenagers or the victims solve the problem, and then they ride off into the sunset. But at the very end, there's either a little wink from the serial killer, or somebody, you see the serial killer walking in the background, or somebody gets killed, and there's a scream, and the movie, obviously the end credits. That's come on, that's cliffhanger.
Oh yeah,
that's cliffhanger one.
But you talk about the wink, which is where I was gonna go. We're fresh off of Jason versus Freddy. I mean, that's an ending. The Freddy wink. That was, we gushed about that. What's that?
They should have just went with a subtler option than like killing her mom. That was my problem. And there's plenty of other things that I could talk about in this that were problems in this film, but that one kind of got me at the end there.
If there's one thing I would fix, I wouldn't say one thing, but if there's another thing I would fix about this movie, it would be okay. So I want to ask you guys if you agree with me or not. It's very important. This scene right here, where they redid this clearly to the T from the first movie. Would you guys rather have had that as the cliffhanger, like that as the ending of the movie? She wakes up and then you see that. Look, I'm just saying, if you want to pay homage to a movie, you do it at the very end of the. Look, I went to go see Candyman the other night, and that movie fucking sucked. But the ending of that movie, at the very ending, I thought was really good because they paid homage to the original Tony. Like, I thought if you pay homage at the very ending of a movie, then that's probably where you get like your good creative side of a movie, right? Because you told your whole story, but look, do not be mistaken, this is a remake or reboot or whatever, and that's what you say, ta-da, like, look, we did it, here you go. Like, I think that would that have been a better ending than what we got, or at least a cliffhanger than what we got?
That's pretty good thinking there, actually. If they put the mom death, like they switched spots there, that would have been a better film.
Kill the mom in the middle of the movie, and then you give us, look, she goes home, she's happy, her and Quentin kiss or whatever the fuck, and then she goes home, she's like, oh man, what a horrible fucking past dude, and I can finally sleep. Dude's gone, right? Take a bath, just like the first one, and then boom, he's back again. Like, come on,
yeah,
bro.
The hand comes up, and then you hear a scream, which is why the mother could have been still alive. But yeah, oh wow. But the way I look at it is, okay, had there been an ending like that, I mean, if they had thought of something that good, the whole movie probably would have been much better. Just because there was just, I mean, you come up with that idea, and I'm like, wow, that's brilliant. But yeah, I didn't have any of those moments. And when I saw the hand in the bathtub thing too, it was like, it's like, they could have done something. They could have tweaked it in some way. I mean, come on. And so, and no wonder why Wes Craven was insulted. It's kind of like, well, shit. I mean, what? You think you were going to top me? Wrong. And I'm surprised they didn't even come up with ways to do it,
But it had potential to. It had potential to do it, though. That's the thing. At least with me.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like in terms of story, in terms of the way you changed the character, even though you should have changed the character completely, but that's just my own perspective. But if those two things actually would have, if you would have had those things aligned together, with a change of character, completely new story, better story. At least you get the backstory, because every movie nowadays is all about the backstories of their villains. So I'm saying it had the potential to be a better movie than the original. Was it? We'll get to that here in a second. But and speaking of so, now it's time for us to get to the best part, which is our grades. Now,
The best part.
I think I'm going to start with you, Mark. I think I'm going to start with you. What was your grade for A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake, 2010?
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the good, because there were a few good points in this movie. I was impressed with the very opening scene. Dean actually was, it's kind of funny. I mean, because if he had continued, he might have taken the best character. I think he was kind of cool. And then, but if he had to die, man, wow, what a way to do it. And then, you go a little further. They do the thing with Chris where she gets killed, and then they pivot, and now it's about Nancy. And another thing, a little thing that I can think of is like the scene with Yuen. It was kind of funny, because that's where this movie looks dated too. I mean, love it or hate it, I mean, it's just like I'm getting used to the cast of movies and TV shows having a little bit more variety, and because like all along I'm like, okay, well, this movie is like there's nothing but white people in this movie. So and you get the scene with Yuen, and that could have been a throwaway scene, but it actually moved the plot forward. I mean, and it did it. In a way, it's kind of like, well, yeah, they could have, they could have. Maybe made it a little bit more clever, but either way, that was it. So that was interesting. However, all in all, it's like I just think the movie couldn't deliver, especially when they were trying to do it more as a remake. So it's kind of like, okay, well, if you want to do a remake, do something that you got to wow me, man. Because I grew up watching Freddy Krueger movies. I'm still alive with this one, so, and a lot of people that did work. It's like, okay, maybe you can't appeal to that audience, but I don't know. So it's like the intention of this film were just, everything was just kind of out of whack. So given the good and the bad and the meh, I give it a C-.
Not as bad as what I thought you were going to give it.
Well, it's a meh grade. It reflects, because D plus would have made it bad, and but I don't know. I don't know if I could. I could, like I said, there's plenty of movies I could shit on, but all in all, I can't completely shit on this movie. So C-.
Hey, listen, man, you shat on this movie a little bit earlier, man. I was like,
yeah, but
damn.
I was
because I'll be like, yeah, this movie's so awesome, and then the next point, because you'll make sense when you do it. So it's not like you just shit on except for the Chris part, I still don't understand it, but whatever. But the rest of the part that you shit on, I'm just like, he's making sense. Like, you're not fucking wrong there. Like, I was sitting there like, because you were like just shit. I'm like, damn, Mark, okay? Like, holy shit. But what's up, Jared? Jared says, what's up, fellas? Thank you for coming through, supporting the channel per usual. But damn, Mark, I mean, C-. That I was shocked. That's to me, that's looking from the outside, looking into like your mind and your opinions of what you get of like all the shit you've been saying about this movie. I'm surprised. Overall, though, I thought you were going to be able to work great.
This may be the lowest grade. I can't remember. I know I've given a couple of low grades. I usually grade pretty high. So, I mean, but it was middling. I mean, it wasn't so meh, but yeah, at the same time, it wasn't so meh, because if it was so mad that it just bored me more than this movie did, then yeah, we would have been in D or F territory. But I don't think I can. I don't think I can go further any lower than C- on this one.
All right, Smith. I want to know your grade, man. What is your grade when it comes to A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010?
Well, I hate to use the R word here, but I think that this movie would, or like just the fan base in general, would greatly benefit from a reboot of this remake. Because when you're watching this, there's so much fucking potential, and they just couldn't get there. And I don't know if 35 million is not enough for a Freddy movie. I mean, it seems like I don't know what they were doing, like having sandwiches every day for the staff or something, wasting the money. But yeah, I'm not going to give it as low of a grade as Mark. I think it gets a C because I've stood by what I said earlier, which is like this is really a neutral film. Like this is not. You can have problems with it, but at the same time, there's stuff in it that's good enough to be like, okay, I can. It all balances out to where you're just left with a poof of air. It's just like it is a film. You can watch it if you want, but.
So what was your actual thought after watching this movie? Like once the movie was finished and over with, what was your actual thought though?
The plot's good. I like the plots. It drives along. There's not too much like just bullshit on screen, except for, of course, you know. And then the problem with that is the characters mostly sucked, including Freddy, in my opinion. But when we talk about what's her name? I'm forgetting
Nancy?
the name. Yeah, Nancy. She's in the fucking Jeep with Homeboy, and they're like talking, and it's like the most stereotypical dialogue I've ever heard. She's like, yeah, I'm not like other girls, like word for word.
Yeah.
Like, holy fuck, dude. Like,
The dialogue was pretty bad.
right, but then the plot still moved along, so you can look past that, which is why it's just getting a neutral, like it's 70% average.
Yeah, all right. So guilty as charged. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have the highest grade of this movie out of the three. But with that being said, look, man, like this movie had a lot of shit, and it packed in a lot within. How long was this movie? Maybe what, an hour and 40,
It was
maybe?
94 minutes, I think.
So okay, so like almost what, an hour and 30, something like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, look, it had a good story. I gotta give it that. The cinematography, I will die on that hill about the cinematography, but the CGI was fucking terrible. That opening scene, Jesus fucking Christ, I cannot praise that opening scene enough. That in itself really bumped it up for me, because yesterday I was like, all right, man, I'm gonna sit back and watch this Freddy movie, and I'd like that opening scene just really kept me in gear and just kept me on that ride for the rest of the movie. It really did. But we gotta talk about the cons. First of all, obviously the obvious CGI. The theme song to me, I thought was just bad. I was like, dude, can we get a better theme song than just like fucking like this weird piano, whatever the fuck this shit is? Like, can we get like, hell, even take? Well, I mean, obviously it wouldn't be fitting for as dark as this movie is, at least as dark as what this movie was trying to be. So I guess we couldn't really go back to the whole like metal, you know. But I'm like, dude, can we at least get like some kind of like beat going on, like some kind of trombone, something, when it comes to this movie? Because the piano sound, like the theme song, I thought, and they kept playing it throughout the movie, and it just kept taking me out of it. I was like, please stop playing. Just don't play anything at all. I'd rather them just not play any fucking music at all than keep trying to play that soft Freddy, you know, new Freddy-esque music. But so that took me out of it. Another con, them trying to be fucking horrible. Just, you know, I thought, you know, it was clever naming the characters after the older characters and stuff like that, but trying to pay homage the whole movie, from between the kills in this movie, between some of the dialogue, the way Freddy is in this movie. I mean, to the, you know, the little girls playing with the jump ropes, and then, you know, the 1, 2, all that. I'm like, man, like either you completely separate the character, or you don't separate him at all. And we should have just got Robert Englund and just him terrorize a bunch of new age teenagers, which honestly does not sound bad when you say it out loud. So, Robert Englund, you're still alive. You might want to do another one. Anyways, so we'll get to my grade.
Freddy versus Jason 2.
Ooh, but the problem with that, the problem with a Freddy versus Jason 2 would be, what if it's bad? What if it's bad?
Yeah.
Then what?
I don't know, but like if they could make it as good as the first one, what?
Yeah, because normally I would say, why do we don't need a second one? But in this case, it's like, but we want a second one. Like, we just want it. Like, yeah, we're not here for the story. Just give us.
Well, either way, even if they can't be together, I want another Friday the 13th, and I want another Nightmare.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'll take all three. I'll take a new Freddy, a new Nightmare. I mean, a new Freddy, a new Friday, and a Freddy vs. Jason 2. But one of my greatest shots of this movie, again, was this hallway scene. To me, I thought really, because I watched this movie yesterday on a pretty good screen, and I was like, you know what, this deserves recognition. So whoever decided to do that shot, I loved it. It didn't have much gore or anything like that in this movie, but I liked the way how how detailed they were with the cuts and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool. But again, at the end of the movie, kind of was like, fell a little bit flat for me. I did fuck with the cliffhanger, but again, just that sour taste in my mouth by the end of this movie. So I am going to have to rate this movie, again, not as high as most people thought I would rate it, because of how much I talk about it and how much I really do like this movie. But I have to, when I'm grading this movie, I have to include its flaws as well. And so I am gonna have to give this movie a B-, and that's my grade for this movie. Is because at the end of the day, like I think we can all agree on it, the plot was good, but when it came to everything else, almost everything else, the movie kind of fell a little bit. Like, yeah, you're still there for a ride. Yeah, there's still some enjoyment with this movie, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's not something you would want to recommend to somebody who is a big fan of horror movies. Unfortunately. But that's just the case with it, man. Any last words from any of you guys on A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010?
I like that you mentioned the music there. The piano shit was pretty lame. I didn't even think about that, but I had to say, like, they should have put like Trent Reznor in charge of sound design, and that would have been fitting.
Anybody else in sound design than who they got for this fucking movie? Mark, what about you?
Well,
anything else you want to say about this movie?
You brought up metal, right? I mean, and at the time, extreme metal was underground in the 80s, but by 2010, I don't know, I think we could use more metal bands, more extreme metal in soundtracks, because and I'm thinking Death
You ain't
Doom.
wrong.
What's that?
You say you ain't wrong.
Right, because I'm thinking like Death Doom, because Death Doom is slow metal and it really has a mood, but if they wanted to pick it up, then they could get into like, gore grind or brutal death metal, something like that. I mean, like the only movie that really utilized Cannibal Corpse was Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, for crying out loud. There's so many. And I have a friend that met George from the Corpse Grinder from Cannibal Corpse, and he actually was at a barbecue with him. And he said, "Yeah, I guess I'm going to be always remembered as that band from Ace Ventura, Pet Detective." So,
oh my gosh.
But yeah, there's so much really cool like atmospheric metal, and like I said, I like Death Doom, because I like my doom with the harsh vocals. There's this band from Sweden called Convent. They're all women. And I love it when women can really pull off harsh vocals. It's fucking amazing. They only have like one album that came out. I'm hoping to get another one. But yeah, then there's what am I thinking of? But either way, like I said, just music like that. So that's what I like to read. Because I'm a big fan of metal, so I know a lot because I'm just really geeky about it.
I feel that. I feel like a lot of things need metal in their lives, including WWE. They've went from like 20 years ago having these really badass theme songs for the pay-per-views to now playing like fucking like Cardi B or some shit to try and get people hyped up for a wrestling event. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? Anyways, so this was our review, and again, I want to show you guys this picture of Robert England. Like, it kind of saddens me a little bit that Robert England does not like the reboot of A Nightmare on Elm Street. It really does. It saddens me a lot.
What the hell is that behind him? Though?
What?
The half.
That's a dummy. I mean, yeah.
Is that his, or was he on the set of a movie, or what was that? Yeah, I don't know. There's a story behind that.
He's also got a Crazies poster behind him too, so I'm sure they're probably doing
and they remade
stuff
that.
For the Crazies, yeah. We got to talk about that one too. I never saw the original, so I have to watch the original at some point. So we might do like a movie review of the original Crazies. But yes, unfortunately, Robert England did not like the reboot. Russ Craven didn't like the reboot. Now it turns out no one liked the reboot except for Korn. So I'm just kidding. But thank you guys for joining us here tonight here on our movie review of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2010, the reboot, the remake, the sucky one, the hashtag good one. Who knows? But it was made in 2010. We reviewed it. Thank you guys for joining us. If you guys are watching later, thank you guys for that as well. Mark, where can people find you?
All right. Well, if you want to see me kind of talking about movies, when I can find the time, I am at the WalterPaisleyCafe.com. I am on social media as Mark Plaid, as the Walter Paisley Cafe, and Spidau. That's SCHPIDAUU. And that's on Facebook, that's on Twitter, and that's on Instagram. I'm also trying to build my print-on-demand business through TeePublic, which is more difficult to find, but Corin has a link that he can put in the notes. There's also spidau.redbubble.com, and I'm working on Society 6, but I haven't really fleshed that one out yet. But you can always contact me through social media if you want more direct links to the things that the designs that I make and put up for print-on-demand stuff like T-shirts and stuff like that. So because that's my main gig. This is fun, but I'm trying to make my money off of art. Because man, I'm not gonna work.
Oh, he went out.
The man anymore. Love your hate me.
Hell yeah, man. So thank you for joining us here tonight. I am me. This is Mark. This is Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, we're the HAP Film Panel. And we are OU.